What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 154 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Also, be sure to check out the Discord. I'll have a link in the description below. Just to talk about it, my poll for my next ship build has ended. Voyager won out, so if you're looking to get involved in that poll, you missed out. But don't worry, I'll have more polls going forward. Today we're going to be focusing on the exterior of the Enterprise D, getting a lot of detailing done. We will be going on the inside of it, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. But we've got about a 22-minute episode, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So kick back, relax, and let's get into this thing. So the first thing I want to do here is this middle line. This is actually off-centered. We're going to fix that today. I believe this row right here, it's off by one. I'm pretty sure it's either this one or this one, but I'm pretty sure this is the row that's off. This is our dead center, I think. Yeah. But there's a way that you can double check this where you count out to the left and right to the cut line. You compare the two lengths. This will help you determine what your center is. This is how I determine mine. For whatever reason, when I was working on the initial portion of this exterior part of the ship, I don't know why, but I miscounted and I thought that the center needed to be 2. So now we need to fix that, and we have to move everything over. And again, I'm not doing anything too crazy. We're just looking for any blocks that are out of place when you compare the left side to the right side. As long as you're doing that, you can't make a mistake. We're going to make some slight adjustments to our windows here. These are just facade windows. I had intended to flesh these out to turn them into either crew quarters or the medical. I believe this actually would have fallen on the medical deck, but it's going to pain me throughout the rest of this tutorial series. There's so much I wanted to do with this ship that we're just not going to have the chance to do. And it's honestly broken my heart just a little bit. Because I mean, for anybody, it hurts, you know, when you spend such a long, a good amount of time working on something just to lose it. I mean, it stings. And this was a year and a half of work that I lost. And I mean, that it killed me inside a little bit. You know, there was nothing I can do to retrieve it. And I'm not kidding you. I tried everything to retrieve this save file. I wish that there was something else that I could have done to prevent it. But that's what I say, going forward, I think building on PC is the way to go to just take cloud out of it and not have any dependence on it. So everything else here looks good. It was just our windows were a little bit out of place and our shield emitters. So now that we've got our middle line here dead center, our escape pods, those don't need to be adjusted. They look good. Everything else here looks pretty good. So now I want to try something. We're going to be shifting over to the pylons. We had them in blue. I want to try filling them in gray and seeing if they look any better. This is an area that I think is open for interpretation on the Enterprise D because I've seen some models where this area it looks blue, which is why I used this color blue. But then I've also seen other models where it was gray. So, you know, this is one of the reasons why I say, you know, take, you know, some of these designs that you see of the Enterprise with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, it's a made-up ship, and there's always going to be variations of it. So I try to just, pick and choose those details for what's going to work best for the build. And this gray might work a little bit better. It might not. I don't know. We won't really know until we try it out. But this is one of the things that, I always say is so important to the build, experimenting and trying new things, because if you don't try new things, how are you going to know what's going to work and what's not going to work? You might fall upon a really, really good idea just based off of trying something new, this is why I always stress, experiment. If you're not willing to backtrack on work, make an extra save file so you don't have to worry about it. Where if make a change, you don't like it, you can just revert back to that old save, no big deal. But definitely experimenting is something that has been such a huge asset to me on the Enterprise D, because there's been so many areas on the ship where I build it out one way, but then I think of a different idea or a different way to approach it or a different color scheme, and then it ends up working out for the best. So try this stuff out. You'd be shocked what a difference it can make if you're willing to just explore and mess around with your build a little bit, to kind of play with different ideas. It's kind of what I'm trying to get to here. And we're not even changing up the design. We're just adding in an extra layer of gray over the blue. That's it. This is the thing too, if you don't like this change, feel free to leave it at the blue. But this is one of the other reasons why I like to show this process, because I'm trying to give you guys a platter of a variety of content that you can use. Now, I didn't talk about it in the last episode, but I want to make a point to do it because we're going to whiz over it right now. This middle backbone right here, you can see that there's a gray line right here. Before, it was only coming up to the warp or to the lower part of the impulse engine, and now it's coming all the way down. So that gray stone block, I replaced the entire middle backbone, just the middle two lines, and I brought it almost all the way down. It's basically come up right to the point of where the torpedo bay is going to go, which we will finalize the outside of the torpedo bay. It'll look pretty cool when it's done. Now we're going to get some detailing going around our phaser banks. This was something that I caught off of a toy of the Enterprise D that I saw. They had added red pinstripes going along the outline of the phaser array, and it looked freaking awesome. And that's what we're going to do. So we don't have to do any more pixel circle generators or anything like that. We're just going to go with the pre-existing outline that we have. So we're going to skip one row of white. We're going to go in one with the cut and just follow our cut line off of this row right here. So we do 4, 5, 3, and we're just following. We're going to do this going all the way around until we get to the other side, and we're going to stop right when we get to this row. We're going to try it here on the underside. So we're building right off the half slab. It might look good with both. We might only need the one. We could always take it out. It's not a big deal. Now, one thing you can do, if you don't want to build out this whole thing, just build out a section of it, just like you can see right here. This will give you a nice example of how this is going to look. I think that looks pretty good. It looks good enough that I feel confident that I'm just going to go all the way around doing both sides. And now we're going to move on to the underside. And I want to rewind here because it is kind of hard to see where our placement's going to be. So we go off of our dead center where we have our, I call them seashells because that's what they look like to me. Now, originally, the phaser emitters were actually a little bit further back on the Enterprise D. I'm going to build mine a little bit closer in because I actually made a slight boo-boo, and I talked about this, that when we added in our layering for the underside of the saucer, I should have used the pixel circle generator more than I had. And what happens is that when you start to add layers to a circle or an oval, it becomes distorted. You don't really see it all that much on the build, but if you really look, you can see it as the layers continue. And because of that, I would have had to have basically redesigned, not necessarily redesigned, but I would have had to rebuild a bunch of layers on here with the grid pixel generator, or the pixel circle generator, I mean, to get it where it needed to be. To cheat and get around that, I just decided to slightly break canon and just add the lower phaser bank just a little bit closer towards the center. So it's going to be this row that we're going to be building it around. That's the next layer down from our seashell. We're just going to go off each side. We're going to take off the first 3 cuts because we don't want the phaser emitter to go all the way around. And we're going to be doing 2 things. We're going to be building out our phaser emitter, and we're also going to be doing our red stripe. We're going to do this at the same time. And that's the template. So we're going to go in 1, follow the cut line. I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So now we're going to follow our pattern. Want to make sure that there's always a blue, or not blue, a white stripe in between the black and the red. Perfect. Now we're going to do the same thing. Now I have this going straight across, but I'm telling you, we're going to get rid of that. Well, no, that was in the middle. My bad. I stand corrected. It looked like we're in the middle, we're not. We're just going to do that going all the way around. Very simple to do. And once that's been completed, we're going to stretch out our shield emitters and then bring them in a little bit, because now they're impeding on our red stripe. And once you complete your red stripe for the lower portion of the phaser banks, you'll see exactly what I mean. It's kind of hard to see it at this angle, but I believe we're going to zoom out. Now we need to replace this yellow with a red, just like that. And see just that little bit of detail. Just having the phaser bank there alone, it would have looked alright, but I think the red really brings it out. You know, it helps to make the ship feel more alive. And I'm telling you, this is the 101s in detailing your ship and doing it with relative ease. When you just look for these lines that you can add, that you can swap out for a different color, and it adds a whole new layer of detailing that you didn't have before. So now we're going to be going on the inside of the ship. So we've got a problem here. We've added in all these escape pods, and you can't see them from the underside. What do you do to fix that? There's a couple of things that you can do. You can add in sea lanterns. You can add an extra block on the underside so you have a candle that you can snap to. Or what you can do is of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using a combination of sea lanterns and half slabs. Basically what we're going to do here is we're just going to delete the blocks that are directly connected to our escape pod. And we're going to be replacing these with half slabs. Just like this. Because what's going to happen once we're done doing this is that we're going to add a sea lantern directly on top of our escape pod. And because of the half slab, the light will come through, so now we'll be able to see these escape pods from the underside. So we'll add just a little bit more lighting to the underside of the saucer that we just didn't have before. Just like that. I don't know why I deleted that block there. Oh, okay, just to get outside. All right. But yeah, that's basically the idea. See, now that whole section's lit up, and before, yeah, you can't even see these escape pods over here, but doing this like that, now you can see them. And we're going to do this for the whole underside. Anywhere that there's an escape pod on the bottom side of the saucer, we're going to do that. This part I should have edited through, so we're going to do that. Alright. Yeah, and we're going to go all the way around. It's going to take you guys a while. I feel your pain on it because I did it myself. And this is why I skipped through it a little bit here. Now we've completed that step, we're going to move on to adding in a lip in gray concrete. So we're going in one off the very lip of the lower side of the ship. We want to make sure that we don't bring it up to the actual corner. We don't want this to show up on the side of the ship. You only want to be able to see this from the underside. So that's why you saw me cut in on the impulse engine. This isn't going to be too difficult. Again, we're just going to be doing this going all the way around the length of the saucer. Until you get to that. You see I did that whole area here. You can see what it looks like. We're going to be doing that going all the way around. Alright, so now we've completed that step. Now we're going to move on to the next step. I think we're going to be adding in some more windows here. Remember, the majority of these windows on the underside of the Enterprise D and HULL, I mean, most of the windows in general are going to be facades. The reason that we're adding in all these extra layers of windows because it's going to help to sell the scale of the ship. It's crazy because even once we're done with the tutorial, there was more windows that I intended to add. We're just not going to be able to get around to doing everything. But yeah, this is something you can totally get away with, you know, like I've really have gotten more flexible with my builds on Minecraft when I realized that not everything has to match up perfectly. You know, it all comes down to what you want people to see. And when I started to realize this, that's when I stopped, making a point to where any window that I had on a ship or build had to be connected to a real room. When you stop thinking like this, it starts making it a little bit easier to kind of manipulate your build and what you want to do. And I think I talked about this in the past and why I do things this way, but it kind of ties into theme parks and how they build their facades, their scenery around. Where they'll have, like, on the outside, it might look like Cinderella's castle, for example. It looks bigger than it actually is because of perspective, and the castle actually gets smaller as you go upward with it. Up in the air, the castle is not fully in proportions. And not all the windows are real windows on it. And it's the same thing with the rest of their structures inside the park. We can get away with the same thing here, and again, adding in these extra windows is going to add more character to the ship. It's going to make the ship feel a heck of a lot better than it is, or not better, but bigger than it is. Because again, as massive as my Enterprise D is, it's still only half the size of a full-scale Galaxy class ship. So, take that into consideration here. This is again one of the reasons why we're adding in these extra windows, because it's going to help when we're looking at the ship from the outside that it doesn't feel like a half-scale ship. It's going to feel, or the idea behind it anyway, is to make it feel that there's a lot more layers or a lot more levels on the ship than there actually are. You can see right here, because in reality, our saucer section has 3 main decks. If we don't count the captain's yacht, and if we don't count the bridge or the shuttle bays. But just looking at the ship right now, based on what we can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decks. So, I mean, that makes a huge difference. It really does. Yeah, she's looking great. She really is. She's starting to come together. Man, it kills me that I don't have this build anymore. I just just gonna have to let it go, I guess. But man, it would have been nice to be able to fly around this ship after it was done. It pains me inside to lose it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, after I first lost it, I was like, well, I'll just rebuild it. And then I had to think. I had to stop myself, and I was like, wait a second. Let's not jump the gun here. Are you really gonna put another year and a half to building this thing again? And that's kind of when it comes down to, that we've spent a lot of time on the Enterprise D. And, I didn't intend this tutorial series to go off as long as it did. So that was another reason why ultimately I'm like, well, I'm not going to rebuild it, because I'm not going to redo the tutorial series. And it would basically just be for me. And I mean, I guess having the videos up is enough, There's other builds that I want to do on here. So I mean, maybe it'll just work out. I can say that when we get into Voyager is not going to be nearly as long as this one. Voyager is probably going to be on, excuse me, it's probably going to be on the level of the Cerritos as far as the length of it. But we've reached the end of today's episode, so I think that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. New subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, you can always catch my new Minecraft episodes dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. If you have any questions regarding today's episode, be sure to drop a comment below. Definitely love hearing from everybody. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up today. Just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section. All right, I'll catch you on the next episode.